Hi, this is Kevin Wynn, original lead singer of Concan. And you're listening to the New Wave Music Podcast. Enjoy.
Welcome back to another episode of the New Wave Music Podcast.
Hey, this is Steve.
And this is the one and only T-Bone.
Well, T-Bone, before we begin, I want to give a shout out to our friends in Frankfurt, Germany. We really appreciate the support and all the listeners there.
Absolutely. Well, Steve, let's mix things up a little bit. We kind of have a special episode today. Let's start off with some music news first. Sparks have dropped another single from another album. This one's called Do Things My Own Way.
Things my own way. They want a lunch, don't want a lunch. Gotta do things my own way. Looking good, understood. Gonna do things my own way. Out the way, out the way. Gonna do things my own way.
And yes, they have another one coming out a little bit later this year. The album is going to be called Mad.
And Simple Minds just announced they have a new live album coming out on April 25th. And I know, T-Bone, you're kind of mixed on the live albums. I think I like the live albums more than you do. They just dropped their classic hit, Don't You Forget About Me, the live version. From the upcoming album, Live in the City of Diamonds.
And Peter Murphy and Trent Reznor, which seems like a little bit more of a normal combination than Peter Murphy and Boy George, they've teamed up for a new song called Swoon.
What else can I do? Swoon. Swoon.
This will be the first single from the upcoming album from Peter Murphy, and it's set to be released on May 9th.
And T-Bone, a band I didn't think we'd ever be discussing here on this podcast, Ministry has announced a new album called The Squirrely Years Revisited. The band said that this album is going to be celebrating the early synth pop years, along with new studio takes of Every Day is Halloween, Revenge, and Work for Love. The album is due out on March 28th, and T-Bone, I just really hope they kind of embrace the synth versus the industrial for this revisit.
Oh, could not agree more. And then finally, Translator, and you'll probably remember them best from the song Everything That I'm Not. They have a new single called These Days to Come.
It happened to you when the storm blows through. You can wake up in the night with a heart that's true. Trying to time a brand new sun. It's all too much.
And this is the quartet's first new single in 8 years. This track was mixed by Ramones producer Ed Stasium, and it's one of 2 new songs that will appear on the upcoming Beyond Today Live at the Farm, San Francisco, 1986. That is going to be released on May 9th. It'll be on LP, CDs, and downloads. Translator played with concerts with numerous bands over the years, including the Kinks, David Bowie, REM, Psychedelic Furs, ABC, Sparks, Romeo Void, Echo and the Bunnymen, and many more. So looking forward to hearing something new from them.
Well, T-Bone, now that we got the news out of the way, let's jump into our only album review today. We're going to be listening to the new album from The Vapors. You're no doubt going to remember The Vapors from their mega hit Turning Japanese.
You got me turning up, I'm turning down, I'm turning in, I'm turning Japanese, I think I'm turning Japanese, I really think so. Turning Japanese, I think I'm turning Japanese, I really think so. Turning Japanese, I think I'm turning Japanese, I really think so.
Along with some other hits, Jimmy Jones,
Jimmy Jones, Jimmy Jones, Jimmy Jones, 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 and his soul, crunch, Jimmy Jones. Jimmy Jones, Jimmy Jones, Jimmy Jones, 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 and his soul, crunch, and get you. He's got a place for me. You get you. He's got a place for me.
and News at 10.
You smile at him and agree 'cause he's your old man. But still I can't hear you. You make no sense to me. Still I can't hear you. When the time comes I disagree with your policy.
Yeah, so this album is called Wasp In A Jar. It was released here at the first part of 2025. This is the fourth studio album from the band. Their previous was 2020's Together, which we reviewed in 23, and both of us really enjoyed that. I remember, Steve. As we mentioned then, it was nearly 40 years between that one and Magnets, which was released in 1981. The band has some original members, including Dave Fenton on vocals and guitars, and Steve Smith on bass. And then we also have Michael Bowes on drums and Daniel Fenton, which you'll recognize that last name, that's David's son, on guitar also. And I do believe that Ed Bazalgette also does some guitar work on this album.
Well, let's jump into this new album from the Vapors. Let's start off with track number 1, Hit the Ground Running.
We saw it coming, so we hit the ground running. We hit the ground running. We hit the ground running. I don't care if you don't care. I do know what we're talking about. And I don't think there's a problem here, so long as we can work it out. And I don't mind if you don't mind, as long as there are stars above. It must be real. It must be love.
I really enjoyed how this track opens with a bit of ambience, and then the crickets that were in the start of it kind of quickly fade out. We get a guitar riff, some pounding percussions, and Dave's vocals kick in. This is a very enjoyable song, not only to kick off this album, but it really, if you're not familiar with the Vapors beyond their mega hit, it's really a great starting point to get familiar with this band.
Yeah, the album opens up at a blistering pace. And just as you mentioned, the most interesting thing to me as some guitar feedback is building up are those cricket sounds that are included. I'm not sure if there's some meaning behind that, but I thought it was a nice way to start. Speaking of that pace, it really builds up with some strong drumming and intense guitars. And if you're familiar with Devo's classic track, Uncontrollable Urge, you might find something very similar in the way the music begins. Certainly not saying the Vapors borrowed that band's intro, but they do sound surprisingly similar. We're probably going to say this too often that specific albums and songs really benefit from having those nice headphones, and that certainly is the case here. Well beyond those crickets, there's some other unexpected inclusions that you wouldn't notice necessarily without headphones. I didn't, and it really adds to the overall texture of the track.
Let's move on to track number 2, The Human Race.
And like us hoping two thin sticks of dynamite, Stephen's making thunder underground. Then it's spinning webs of electricity. David's in the queue between lost and found. We're out of time, we're out of place, 'cause we've been running with the human race. There is no sign, there is no trace. You better believe it.
Guitar plucking and a bit of bass kick off this song, but really what makes this track soar is when that chorus comes in and the entire band is on point. When the chorus comes in and the entire band is on point, delivering an outstanding song that has become an album highlight for me.
Yeah, Dave Fenton sounded great on the first song, Steve, but I think he really shines here. I particularly like how the song begins with a sort of dueling guitar and bass. That part doesn't really last long enough, in my opinion, though instrumentally, I'm sure it couldn't. Dave is the primary songwriter in the band for the lyrics, and he has a way of producing great wording. In the middle of the song is a fantastic guitar solo that fits in perfectly with the rest of the music. And just as the song begins with that dueling guitar and bass, they end the track in the same manner. Very inventive and clever. Next up is the third track, Forever and Ever.
You're my porcupine, always been my valentine. You're my wasp in a jar. You've been good to me, always been the rock for me, and now you turned into a star. So this is forever, and this is for real. Forever and ever, 'cause that's how I feel. Now and forever.
Steve gets a chance to show off his bass playing skills on this track. The tempo of this song is fantastic, and the chorus comes in and the style changes just ever so slightly, but beautifully. Michael's drumming is right on target also. He changes from a standard beat to a varied beat with skill and precision.
Yeah, this is another song that has yet a fast pace, but yet still takes its time to build up to another rockin' tune. Here we get the phrase and the album title, Wasp in a Jar. This track feels kind of like that frenzy you would have unleashing a wasp in a jar. The pacing on this song I found to be on point. How that chorus kicks the level of the song up was just a masterpiece. And the enjoyable guitar solo makes this another song that I really enjoyed.
Next up is the fourth track, Miss You Girl.
You look older, 18 anyway. Slow down, stop now. What we gonna do about all this pain? I could really do without all these questions burning into you. When I really care about you, miss you, girl, I'm gonna miss you, girl, I'm gonna miss you. Miss you, girl, I'm gonna miss you, girl, I'm gonna miss you, miss you.
So, Steve, the first thing I'm going to say about this song is the lyrics seem a bit out of time, and I don't necessarily mean that in a good way. I'm just going to leave it at that. The song does rock along nicely, but I'm going to say that I found the repetition of the song's title to be something that really turned me off on the song as a whole. That being said, though, the instrumentation is top-notch. The percussion matches the speed of the guitars, which are played with great fidelity. But this is going to be that first song on that just didn't hit me right with this album.
T-Bone, here we really get to hear Steve slap the bass. Dave's vocals and the rest of the band sound great, but that bass is what really stood out on this song. Well, besides the lyrics that get a little uncomfortable when you realize
Yes.
Dave's age and what the
he's
subject
mentioning.
could be.
Correct.
And speaking of lyrics, usually when the band repeats the lyrics, or in this case, the song title over and over, it can get a little bit tiresome. Yet I found the band used the repetitiveness of the title in a way that made sense and didn't make the song feel stretched out.
You know, and who knows, maybe we're misinterpreting the lyrics on this song. To me, I felt a little uncomfortable.
See, and that's
listening to
funny
them.
because that's exactly the same thing I had coming across on this when I was hearing that. I'm like, at first didn't bother me, and then I'm like, wait, putting the age gap. I'm like,
Right. And like I say, maybe we're missing something, but I don't know.
Well, let's move on to track number 5, Decompression.
It's all for you. It's all for you. While you don't need me, you still leave me shades of purple, black and blue. It's all for you. It's all for you. There's no one else here who belongs in rehab half as much as you. Take a look at your hands. Take a look at your face. Take a look at your back-to-back-to-back meetings with the human race.
I like how this one musically sounded different than what we've heard from the first few tracks. What really stood out to me, though, was that semi-harmony vocal that comes in quickly and yet goes out quickly. The guitar work on here also really gets to shine.
Yeah, you know, the band really changes the style of their music with this track. You can generally tell a Vapor song. That's not to say that they all sound the same, but there is a particular style. This one varies that traditional sound quite a bit, and it's very welcome. Everything here comes together nicely, though. The drumming, bass, and especially the guitar work are all very good. There's a real 70s sound to those guitar as it opens. Part of the vocals, especially the backing track, really soar at times and take this song a little higher. This is the shortest song on the album of actually very short tracks. It doesn't really seem like it needed to go on longer, though, to be honest, I wouldn't have minded.
Let's move on to track number 6, Carry On.
Carry on, carry on, carry on, carry on, as if nothing matters. Carry on, carry on, carry on, life is still one more. Let's pretend that the earth is oval. Let's pretend that the sky is round. Let's pretend that tomorrow's New Year. Let's pretend that we're safe and sound. Let's pretend.
The quick pace and upbeat tempo starts off this song. Like the prior tracks, the band is on fire and not showing any signs of slowing down. While this one maybe wasn't my favorite on the album, I still enjoyed it, and it's still one I would not skip.
You obviously like the song. I think it's one of the best on the album. This actually is one of a couple of my favorites. The band shows just how good they are with this song. Everything comes together. This is sort of, and we'll explain later, the longest song on the album. And it's so well written that it doesn't get old. I particularly like the backing vocals that accompany Dave during the chorus. But then, with about 2 minutes left in the track, the band changes directions in a completely unexpected and exciting way. The way they put together the final part of the song has to be heard to understand why I think it's so good. It builds and builds and just makes a great song even better. Now we'll go to track number 7, Nonstop Radio.
You make me feel like it's all been a dream. It's like a non-stop radio playing all my favorite songs. Non-stop radio, everybody singing along. Now they're dancing in the street, there's so many there to meet ya. Can always spend the day or get up and walk away, yeah.
Here's another one of my favorite songs on the album. The way the guitar and drums open the track is both traditional and modern. They just come together in such an appealing way. And Steve, for me, this is the perfect example of what music means to someone who loves music. As the lyrics say, it's a non-stop radio playing all my favorite songs, non-stop radio, everybody singing along. It's just one example in lyrics of what this song has to say about the joy of music.
Yeah, T-Bone, I really liked how the cymbals and the percussion started out this song. This is another song that's going to get stuck in your head long after the track is over. And speaking of the track, this one really had more of a retro 60s, 70s rock vibe that worked very well. I agree with you. The lyrics were superb, very relatable, and you guessed it. This is one of the album highlights for me.
Next up is track number 8, Nothing Can Stop Us Now.
They can try, but they don't know how. Nothing can stop us now. They can't stop us now. They can't stop us now. They can't stop us now. Now, they can't stop us now. But sometimes when we're kissing, I can tell there's something missing. Wish you loved me half as much as him.
The band changes gear, opening this track with some acoustic guitar strumming. Before long, though, the electric guitar comes in strong and along with the percussion drives this song ahead. And if you listen closely, there's some additional instruments playing in the background that are an unexpected and pleasant addition. Everyone knows I love the use of bass in a song, Steve, and the instrument is used with great power here.
Well, T-Bone, this track for me has something that we have not yet heard on the album. A bit of a light acoustic guitar, as you mentioned, opens up this track. It's not long before the percussions come into the mix and the rest of the band joins in. As the song says, they can't stop us now. And I would have to say that this song sums up the return of the Vapors very well. Nothing can stop them now. Moving into track number 9, The Words.
There isn't anything I wouldn't do. You're just an animal, I'm in love with you. You took the words right out of my mouth, right out of my mouth. You took the words right out of my mouth, right out of my mouth. You teach me, I teach you. I learn from every little thing that you do.
All right, T-Bone, I know how thrilled you get when a track can bring in just a bit of cowbell into the mix, and this track does that. The musicianship is also on point, as are Dave's vocals. This one is another enjoyable listen, and one that really took me back again to the styles of the 60s, 70s, and just maybe turned up a little bit, maybe to 11.
I mentioned the bass in the previous song, and it continues on this track, accompanied at times, just like you mentioned, some cowbells. Love it. Again, a nice addition that just comes out of nowhere. On parts of the track, the guitar work seems a little more rudimentary, but it's made up with some strong drumming. The vocals make up for everything, though. Dave sounds great, and some additional backing vocals really make this track work, especially during the chorus.
We'll see what our take is on track number 10, Look Away Now.
So I tried to find truth in my troublesome youth, but nobody wanted to stay. In the end it was clear that I don't belong here, and most of me gets in the way. Look away now, look away now, look away now. Don't want you to see me like this. Look away now, look away now, look away now. Everything ends with a kiss.
I really like how this track opens with percussions and what sounds like keyboards. Dave delivering the lyrics of "It's taken so long to uncover this song" really had me thinking about how long that maybe he's been working on this song. Maybe it could be one that's taken him 40 plus years to do. To me, it comes across of Dave or the band reflecting back on their career as a band. It's safe to say the lyrics on this track really stood out to me.
Yeah, the guys really do slow down the pace with this track. In the world of the Vapors, this might be considered a sort of ballad. It's really nicely put together. As good as the guitar playing is on this song, and I agree with you, Steve, it's really the drumming that stands out. At times, the beat is so irregular that it seems out of place, but the more you listen to it, the more it makes sense. Next up, number 11, Idiot Creatures.
Working from home is a know that it seems a nightmare in everyone's dream. So you better look sharp and you better look keen. So heads down America. It's a beautiful dawn breaking. It's a beautiful day. It's a beautiful feeling, but just don't get in my way. Idiot creature. Idiot creature.
And just like that, after the slowed down tempo of the previous track, the band goes into high gear with this one. The guitar playing is top notch here at its accelerated pace, but it's also varied. At times it does change to a different tone before revving up again. I particularly like the la 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 backing vocals going along with the vocals during the chorus. And this, along with most of the songs on the album, is short. 3 to 3.5 minute tracks that move fast, almost to a fault.
Well, see, here we get a song that for me really captures the early punk rock sound of the band. This is a fast-paced song. The tempo is really kicking in, and the band does a great job of keeping up with that. You mentioned the chorus, how the la la la's. I really enjoyed that as well. Something that also I really enjoyed with the chorus and maybe the vocal mix of how Dave's vocals comes in when he delivers the line "idiot creature." About halfway into the song, it kind of was a little bit of a different take. Kind of stood out to me, and I really found myself fascinated with it.
Next up is the 12th track, It Gets Better.
'Cause it gets better. Better every day. It just gets better. In every single way. It just gets better. I don't care what you say. It just gets better. Oh.
And just when you think they're going to get another slower track, the guitars and drums pick right up at the bridge. It's an interesting balance between the slower moments and when the song picks up. This is not one of my favorite songs on the album, but I don't dislike it either. It's just we're starting to get towards the end of it, and I think maybe that we're starting to run out of a little bit of steam, but I could be wrong.
Well, T-Bone, I'm going to have to say that you're wrong. Late in this album, we get what might be one of the best Vapor songs that they've done. This is an amazing track and definitely an album highlight for me. This is one of the longest tracks at just a little over a whopping 3.5 minutes. Dave and company do a fantastic job building this one, and when that chorus comes into the mix, 2 words, T-Bone, pure perfection. This song for me is reason enough to get this album. All right, T-Bone, well, as you said, we are nearing the end of the album. Let's go to track number 13, Proud.
If you could see me now, if we could travel through time somehow, if you could see me now, would I make you proud? And if you could see me now, if you could follow my life somehow, if you could see me now, would I make you proud? Like you made me proud.
This song, on my first listen, I didn't really appreciate it. I think it just had the unfortunate album placement to follow up such an amazing song. However, this one, again, it has tight musicianship, excellent guitar work, creative lyrics, and a great vocal delivery from Dave. It's just one that, listening to this the first time, I wasn't impressed, and it's one that I started enjoying more and more as I listened to this album more.
Well, as much as you like the previous track, this is actually one of my favorite songs on the album. We're getting close to the end of the album, but excellent songs have not come to a close. This is one of the best tracks with an amazing chorus that you'll find yourself loudly singing along. The main guitar line is very Beatlesque and really fits the way the song is put together. And late in the track is some great guitar playing that is both energetic and precise. And I'll say it again, Steve, Dave sounds fantastic on this track. His vocals are clear and concise, and some great backing vocals that close off the song really add to the overall effect.
Well, T-Bone, let's close off this album with track number 14, Together Again.
We'll all be together again. We'll all be together again. We'll all be together again. But we don't know where and we don't know when. We'll all be together again. We'll all be together again.
The album ends with another amazing track. I really enjoyed the catchy lyrics, the tempo, the tight musicianship. This is a very enjoyable song to close out in a fantastic album. As Dave is delivering the lyrics of "We'll All Be Together Again," you're gonna have to wonder how long the Vapors will continue to put out new music. Now, as a bonus on this song, we get an alternate take of "Proud" hidden about maybe 40 seconds after the song ends. But stay tuned as we speak to Steve from the Vapors about what led to having this track on the album.
Yeah, Steve, fantastic drum beat closes off this album, but that is just one part of this exceptional song. Just as with their last album, the band really knows how to finish an album. Everything from the vocals to the instrumentation is spot on. I particularly liked how the instruments fade out. The singing along some nice backing vocals continues. And yes, Steve, as you mentioned, this is not just one song. It's about 5 minutes left. The song comes to an end, and about, as you mentioned, almost a minute later, a different version of the previous track, Proud, begins. And Steve, I have to say that there aren't a lot of differences between the two. Was it entirely necessary? Not really, but it does seem like an odd addition and a strange way to finish things off. Simply my opinion.
Well, T-Bone, like our listeners, a few years ago, my knowledge of the Vapors was probably very limited. I'd say I was really familiar with the song Turning Japanese, as I'm sure most everybody was. But that changed when they released the album together. Upon hearing that album, I became a huge Vapors fan. This album, Wasp In A Jar, is amazing and one that I highly recommend. This is one that I feel if you're open to new music and you want to hear an enjoyable album, check this one out. To me, the Vapors are a band that really has gotten better with age. As I think it's safe to say, I'm a bigger fan of their newer stuff than I was of their early 80s. And this is an album that we'll probably be discussing at the end of the year because I'm sure it'll be on my top of the year.
Yeah, I agree with you on everything that you said there. I think it's pretty obvious that I enjoyed this album quite a bit. With some minor exceptions on the album, it's pretty close to perfect. My only complaint would be really that this album doesn't have a lot of variety based on the previous album. A lot of it does sound quite a bit the same. And that's not really a huge complaint because it is great songwriting and excellent lyrically and vocally. So I'm going to say that I still highly recommend this album, even though there may not be much differences between this one and the previous one.
Yeah, and T-Bone, I agree. The last album, though, was such a masterpiece. It's hard to follow that one up. That one was just...
Yeah, it was great.
Definitely pick up Together from the Vapors and also pick out the new album, Wasp In A Jar.
Absolutely. All right, and now we are going to have a special guest with us. I'm going to turn that over to you, Steve.
Joining us now on the program, we're very pleased to have Steve Smith from the Vapors. Welcome to the show, Steve.
Hi.
Hey, Steve. Well, while you weren't in the original 1978 lineup, you joined the band a year later. I personally think that's long enough to be considered an original member. How did you come about joining the band?
Well, I'd seen the band play a few times because some friends of mine ran a small public address system. And the Vapors had hired them to do a couple of shows in small bars and asked if I'd come along and help out. So I'd seen the band and I knew that the songs are really good. And I was quite surprised to see such a proper band playing locally in my town. These guys, I thought these songs and the singer in particular, these guys are as good as anything. And so when the original bass player left, I was straight in there and said to Dave, "No, I can do this." And Dave had seen me play drums with another band, but he knew that if I said I could do it, I could do it. And I went along and had a play, and he said, "Yeah, you're in." And here I still am.
So, Steve, did you have any idea that the song Turning Japanese would become such a massive hit, or was it just another tune to you at the time?
No, when I first heard it, when I was, before I joined even, I thought, yeah, this is so catchy. It's just such a great pop song.
It absolutely is. What other artists would you say were the most influential for you guys as the Vapors were just beginning?
We were everyone had their own influences, but generally we were influenced by the sort of punk ethos of do it yourself and make it loud and fast.
Any bands in particular come to mind?
Well, I think we all like The Clash. I think we all like The Jam. But yeah, it was just that general whole thing of sweeping everything old away and something new coming along like an express train.
Right. Along with vocalist, guitarist Dave Fenton and yourself, who's currently in the band?
Dave's son, Daniel, is playing guitar. And he's been with us for quite a while now. He played on the Together album and he's played on the new album too. And on drums, we've got Michael Bowles, who was in a band with Dave, and I believe in the 80s or 90s. and he's been with us since 2016.
Yeah, I remember seeing you guys probably with 10,000 other people at Cruel World. And not only was it a great show, but Dave's son, boy, I tell you, that guy has some energy.
He does indeed. He's revitalised us. And he's brought the average age of the band down by 10 years.
Magnets came out in 1981, and then it wasn't until 2020 that the band released the outstanding album Together. It's something that we've seen from other artists, but did the Vapors break up for those years, or was it something entirely different?
No, we broke up in the fall of 1981, and then we didn't do anything at all until 2016. Oh well, actually, we had a few rehearsals in the early 2000s with myself, Dave, and Ed, the guitarist. I think we did 3 or 4 rehearsals, and I think there was a tentative talk of a show then, but it didn't happen. And then nothing until 2016 when Dave came to all of us and said, "Look, I've got a proposition for you."
So with Dave coming to you in 2016, was that kind of what ignited the band to get back together after decades of being apart?
Yeah. I mean, Dave had taken early retirement from his work as a lawyer with the Musicians Union, and Dave's wife had said, "Well, what are you going to do? You can't have you sitting around the house all day, Dave. You're going to need to do something. Why don't you get the band back together?" And so Dave was motivated to all of us and see if we'd join in. Said we'll give it a go. Howard, unfortunately, they just had a young child, so he wasn't really up for doing this mad rock and roll business thing.
I love that phrase. Let's get the band back together.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of those years, were you doing other music projects during that time?
Yeah, I did music. I kept doing music really for about 20 years in various different bands, all sorts of different types of bands. And I did a lot of sound engineering, sound teching as well. In fact, I made most of my living was from doing sound. But I enjoyed that. It was great fun. I saw a lot of the world. I went to some crazy places.
So, Steve, in the past 5 years, the Vapors have released 2 albums along with several singles. I got to ask, what sparked this sudden surge of creativity?
Well, Dave just had a stack of songs, and he had a very large list of songs. But it's more difficult to whittle down, which ones we do and we don't do, than worrying about whether we've got enough. There was a lot. Dave's been quite prolific since we came back.
And you guys are set to release your brand new album, Wasp In A Jar. If you could share what that title means to you as a band.
Well, I think it sort of sums up the vibe of the album, which is like quite angsty and buzzy and fast and let's get out there and do it.
So if someone's just hearing the Vapors for the first time through the album Wasp In A Jar, what song would you suggest that they start off with and why?
I think Hit the Ground Running.
So we come and so we hit the ground running, we hit the ground running, we hit the ground running. I don't care if you don't care, I do you know what we're talking about? And I don't think there's a problem here, so long as we can work it out. And I don't mind if you don't mind, as long as there are stars above, it must be real.
Because it's the punky theme that's run through us since we very first started. It's fast, it's fun, and it's catchy.
Absolutely. No, I couldn't agree more. And if you could sum up Wasp in a Jar to someone who hasn't heard it, what would you say? Is it the same thing there, spiky and punky, or overall, what would you say about this new album?
I'd say it is a return to our punk roots. We've recorded it like we recorded Nuclear Days and Magnets. We sat up in a room, we put some microphones up, and we started recording. And a lot of what you hear on the album is live. Very little technical trickery or computerized wizardry, really. But it's just basically recorded like you would in the old days, but on with a high quality digital system to record onto.
Oh yeah, no, I can understand that. Yeah, I mean, it has a fantastic sound to it, but it does sound a little bit raw in its own way.
Yeah. I mean, there's very little correction by computer.
The final track on the album, Together Again, seems to include a hidden track, a bonus track, shall we say. Is that an alternative take of Proud at the end?
Yes, yeah, it is. It's a different speed. It's slightly faster.
And if you could see me now, if you could follow my life somehow, if you could see me now, would I make you proud? Like you made me proud. I wish you could see me now.
So yeah, it's a completely different version. We couldn't decide which one to put on, and then we thought, well, it's a shame that the other one gets thrown away, but you don't really want to. So we thought, let's just make it a hidden track, like you used to in the 90s.
Yeah, exactly. When I saw that the song was 9 minutes long, I thought, well, that seems a little long for the Vapors. And then I realized after a little break that the other track comes in.
Yeah, we just thought it was a shame to not put it on there, and we just thought it'd be just a bit of fun to just sort of pretend it's hidden. And
So, Steve, I got to ask, there's the last two albums we found to be amazing, Together and Wasp in a Jar. What songs from those two albums stand out to you the most?
I really love the song Together.
So let's get together, come on, let's get together, come on, let's get together, come on. I said let's get together, come on, let's get together, come on, let's get together, come on. Let's get together. Let's get together.
That is my favourite song that we've done on those two albums. But I really like Hit the Ground Running. I really like Human. I mean, there's so many. The first thing is if we're playing it, I'm really excited by it because it wouldn't get that far otherwise. There's the way we work is everyone has to go, yeah, this is a great song. That's when we really start working on it and honing it. So yeah, I'm excited about all of them really.
So, as we mentioned, the band also has released a number of singles throughout the last couple of years, including One of My Dreams,
Let's just sit back now and enjoy the ride, 'cause I know just what to do now that one of my dreams came true. Yeah, one of my dreams came true. Yeah, the one about me and you.
Novocaine,
Novocaine, just give me Novocaine, all over Novocaine, to take away the pain, yeah, Novocaine, just give me Novocaine, all over Novocaine, to take away the pain, yeah, Novocaine, just give me Novocaine, all over Novocaine, to take away the pain, yeah, Novocaine, just give me Novocaine, all over Novocaine.
Eyes on the Prize,
Keep your eyes on the prize and forget about the neon signs. Keep your eyes on the prize and you'll see me coming round tonight. Keep your eyes on the prize and everything will be alright. Everything will be alright.
When the new album was announced, was there any consideration of including these as part of the track list? Or I think you said Dave had a stack of songs, so you didn't really need to include those.
Yeah, I mean, that was the thing is we really didn't need to include those songs, but those songs were all self-produced. And we wanted the album to have a kind of a feel, a kind of vibe. And so we wanted to do it all in the same studio with the same producer and just to make an album rather than a collection of songs.
And, the Vapors have a very distinct sound. It's that definitely a guitar-oriented rock and roll, and that undeniably continues on this new album. You mentioned that Dave writes the songs, but beyond that, is it kind of a collaborative effort with the band on actually doing the music?
Yeah. Dave will come in with a sketch of a song, and Dave writes all the lyrics, but the music is put together by all of us.
So, Stephen, a listener question we had is there a Vapor song that you think deserves more attention?
I would say again, Together.
I agree. It's a great song. And Steve, one other listener question that we ask all our guests that we interview. Do you have a favorite gig or tour memory that stands out to you?
Yeah, Cruel World.
Oh, wasn't that amazing?
That was just the most amazing. I'm a bit of a fanboy. I was so in awe of everybody, but backstage. Oh my God, look who's over there! It's Gary Newman, and there's I was such a fanboy. But I thought The audience was great, so fantastic. I knew from the word go that the audience were with us. Just such a great gig for me. And luckily, someone had their phone there, got their phone out and filmed the entire gig and put it up on YouTube. So whenever I can go and watch it again whenever I like. And thank you to
Oh,
everybody
yeah.
that.
Yeah, whoever did that, if you haven't watched it, definitely watch it. It was an amazing show with an incredible audience that was totally into it.
Yeah. Just like I say, I knew they were with us straight from the off.
Yes. You guys are going to be, speaking of touring and live shows, you guys are going to be doing part of you're going to be part of the Lost 80s tour coming up. Do you guys just stick to that format currently, or do you have any plans to do any other touring with the new album?
Well, we'd love to tour with the new album. We're doing a few shows in the UK with the new album in March. And then we're doing some shows with Big Country in the UK in April and May. But yeah, we just go and do what we can. So the 80s said, Lost 80s said, come and do some shows, and we were like, yeah, we're going to come and do some shows. It's such fun doing that tour. You get to meet so many people in other bands, and because you're the same bands are playing 20 odd shows, you get to know quite a few people.
Oh, sure.
I'm still really good friends with a lot of people from the 2019 tour.
Do you guys get a chance to play, or do you have any plans to play any new songs on that Lost 80s tour, or is it kind of more of the known hits?
Yeah, it's more of a retro thing on that tour. I mean, we'd love to come back and play some of our own shows playing the new album, but we'll have to see how that goes.
Well, Steve, thank you so much for joining us today. We wish you and the band the greatest success with the new album. We'll look forward to seeing you on Lost 80s, and hopefully we'll see you guys on your own in the near future.
Yeah, come and say hello, guys.
All right, well, take care. We wish the best for you.
Yeah, cheers. Thank you, guys.
If this is your first time listening, we thank you and ask that you please subscribe. That's a great way to support us. And if you enjoyed this episode, please feel free to leave us a 5-star review. You can find us on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. Just search for New Wave Music Podcast. We'll catch you on the next episode.